Unapologetically Woman. We're celebrating phenomenal women all across Kentucky who make no apologies for their perspectives or the impacts that they're making in the community. Today we're celebrating Carol Siler. Carol is a wife, a mom, a grandma, a leader, an educator, an advocate, and she's just recently retired as Executive Director of Women Leading Kentucky. Unapologetically Woman, Carol Siler, that's you. Congratulations.
Well, thank you. Thank you. It's such an honor.
Well, so glad that you're here today. How is retirement treating you?
Well, you know, I've got some projects that I'm doing at home.
Of course.
So once I get those out of the way, I think I'm going to be very bored. So I'm looking at some things to get into and to work, to maybe do some part-time work with a nonprofit community. So, you know, it's okay. I like it, but it's also, I'm just so used to being out and connected with society that it's hard to sit at home.
Is it hard to be in the house?
Oh, yeah, and especially during the winter months, you know.
That's tough.
Yeah.
But I think you're going to get involved in something, because something that I'm interested in is this article that you did on the tradition of snake handling in Appalachia churches. Tell me about that.
Well, when I was a student at Lee's College in Jackson, Kentucky, I was working on an oral history project, and somebody else had started and they graduated, so I took it over. And we basically interviewed people who were involved in snake handling, and they, you know, visited it in their homes and talked about, you know, about the tradition.
What is that about?
Well, the tradition, the way I summed up in my article, was that the people in Appalachia, when they moved there, you know, you're talking mountainous terrain. It's a hard life. It is hard to grow food. Work is hard. If you're coal mining, you know, my ex-husband was a coal miner, and he had worked several times, and I don't think people understand this, that sometimes those coal mines are like 36 inches high, and you're down there working, you know, underground in something 2 feet high, 3 feet high, you know? And I don't think people understand that. So it's a hard life. And with that hard life, they have a hard religion, because it has to be. And they feel like they've got to prove things. And they've got to prove that they love God and that their devotion is sincere. And there's a verse in Mark that says you can take up serpents and drink poison. And so that's what they do. A lot of people drink poison. Now, I did not have any interviews with people who actually drank poison, although I know there's a lot of people that do that. But the snake handlers, and one time I was in a house and I asked the guy, I said, "Do you have snakes in this house?" He goes, "There's some under that couch where you're sitting." And I was like, ah. And I actually, later on, I got to go and do some filming at a church, and there was a professor that I had who had a relationship with some people at a very, very small church in West Virginia, and we went up there and we filmed a service, and it was different. It was different. I did not know how it was going to go or how they handled the snakes, and it was definitely a learning experience.
You even got to take it out of the box.
Well, now when I did a play, I was in a play and I was doing a monologue, and I was a former member of a family that handled snakes, and I was talking about it and, you know, explaining it to the audience, and, you know, why my parents did it and why I had left. And then at the very end, I quoted that passage of scripture, and I opened a basket and pulled this snake out, and you know, everybody in the audience was like, rubber snake. And then I put my arms up like this, just like the herpetologist told me to do. And it started just crawling around my arm. And he told me, he says, hold your arms when you take her out, hold your arms just like a tree, because that's all they want to do. They just want to wind themselves up. You know, and that snake, and you know, this little tongue out and everything, and you just heard these gasps, people in the audience.
Were you nervous doing it?
No, the first few times that I that I did it, I was. But then after I got used to it, I really wasn't. She was a nice little snake, and just a little eastern black snake, and she was. And a herpetologist at Eastern Kentucky University is the one who taught me how to handle the snake properly. So,
wow. That's
right.
That's an experience, but I think that's what it's all about: experiencing different cultures, different traditions, and what people do and how they do it. I think that's important.
Well, I think I'm the kind of person also that I want to immerse myself in somebody's culture. If they if they tell me about like their culture, I want to go, well, I want to come there. I want to come to your house. I want to eat at your house. I want to eat your food. I want to come to your church. I want to do whatever it is. I want to immerse myself in it because I want to get to know you and who you are, and that helps me understand people better. Is because
you get an appreciation.
Yeah, and I mean we're all different, and I don't believe in that kind of thing where people say we're all the same, because we're not. We all have different backgrounds, different cultures, and I think we should celebrate them and appreciate our differences. That's what I have found, because there's so many rich cultural experiences out there, and I think you're just limiting yourself if you don't just go. When I went to, I was on a cruise this January, and I told the friend that I was with, I said, when we go to Puerto Rico, we're going to go, I want to go to the beach, I don't want to do anything touristy, I want to just go immerse myself. I want to go find every little nook and cranny that I can find, and I want to get to see what people do, and it was, we did that there, we did that in the Virgin Islands, and it was just such a, I loved it. I loved getting to learn the people, and even though it was a brief time, I want to go back so bad and just be there for a while and just
get a little snippet of what's going on and how other people live. And, I enjoy that as well. But you've got so many things on your plate. You're involved in everything, and so you just recently retired from Women Leading Kentucky. Tell us all about Women Leading Kentucky and why that's important for you.
Well, Women Leading Kentucky was an organization that I was involved with when I was the development director at WEKU. We had an agreement where we would help them advertise their their luncheons and conference and events, and then we would get a ticket to go, and so I would go to everything. And the first conference I went to was just like, oh my gosh, and I was very about conferences because I've been to so many, and it just seemed like this was like, they were all like cheerleading sessions, and this one was like really just, you felt emotional when you left, and you learned so much, and you just got to know people, and it just, to me, I said, that is the best conference I've ever been to. So I just kept going, and then when I got to know Janet Holloway, who was the founder, I got to know Janet very well, and then Janet retired, and they said they were looking for a new director, and so let me tell you this story, how this came about, because this is a great story. So Eastern was trying to encourage people who had so many years in, they were eligible for their retirement benefits, and they wanted to, and they were at a certain level, pay level, and they wanted to give them a buyout, 6-month, salary buyout, if and that was the thing, you had to take a buyout. And I could not only take the buyout, but I could retire. I was eligible to retire. And I was trying to decide in my mind, did I want to do that? Well, I go to this conference, and Betsy Myers, who was the COO for Barack Obama's, I think his second, I can't remember if it was his first or second campaign, but anyway, it was, she was his COO, and also went to work in the White House, and then she had left and gone to another position. But Betsy tells this story about, somebody said, why in the world would you leave the White House, And so she tells this story. She has a young daughter who was like at that time 5 or 6, and she said, my husband and I had decided that we just didn't want this kid to be involved in everything. We wanted to be very, straightforward about what we did, and and what we encouraged her to do, and that, because we just didn't want this well, do everything and quit and all that.
Right,
so
right.
That's what they were trying to do. They were trying to direct her. Well, she wanted to take ballet. And I want to dance, I want to take ballet. So they finally gave in and took her to a dance lesson, and she loved it. So they took her to the little dance shop to buy, and all her equipment and everything. So she's standing there looking at herself in the mirror, and she's got on her little tutu and leotard and little ballet shoes. And Betsy asked her daughter, she said, "How do you feel?" And the little girl looks up at her and goes, "I'm freaking with joy."
Oh!
And I said, I'm not in my job. I'm not freaking with joy. And I know you can't do it every day, but you've got to have that joy in your heart when you go to work every day. And I had lost that joy. Just a lot of different things going on, reasons for that. But when Janet was going to retire, I said, I want to do that. So I put my application in. I had no clue or really, I thought they won't hire me. There's so many people out there that want that job. Mm-hmm. And then we had the final interview, got down to the final interview, and I told that story about Betsy Myers and her little daughter. And they said that was what made them hire me. And so I started in September of 2013 and retired this past September. So I was there 11 years. But I can honestly say that, there were days that were hard. And there were days that, I made big mistakes.
Of course.
And there were days that, we cried. And there were days that we had to do hard things. But there was so much joy in that job, and so much joy in getting to know the people that I got to know, and seeing the women rise up. There was a young girl that had received a scholarship about the first year that I came, and she came up to me, I think it was the last year, we had a networking after hours thing, and she came up to me. She graduated from college and dental school, and was had opened a dentist office in Nicholasville.
That's what it's all about.
That's what it's about, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. And you guys have, under your leadership there, you gave out over $250,000 worth of scholarships.
We did. We gave scholarships to women attending college in Kentucky. That was the thing. They had to, it didn't matter where they were from. They could be from somewhere else as long as they were going to school in Kentucky. And we had several that were supported by various businesses such as Toyota and City National Bank. And then we had some that were leadership scholarships that came from donations to the organization. And then we had one for Janet. There was a founder scholarship that honored Janet. We established a scholarship for One Parent Scholar House that we did for a few years, and it was for a student attending school at that who were a parent who was a student there. And I don't know if y'all know what the One Parent Scholar House does, but it's women who would not be able to go to college if they did not have the resources, such as a place to live, somebody to take care of their kids, to make sure they had a place to learn, to get mentorship, advisors, people to work with them on their, and listen, the people that go through that program, they are high achievers. And it is the best, and that's the reason I wanted to get involved with them after I retired, to be on their board, because I really feel so strongly about that program, because we're talking about women who they would not be able to go to college otherwise
without having that support. And
to give a scholarship to somebody, that's $1,000 worth of loans they don't have to take out.
That's right. And Community Action provides the child development for the moms that are at One Parent Scholar House.
I love it. I love it.
We sure do. And so you also, not just with scholarships, but you created a couple of awards there too.
Right. Now, when I came there, we had the Martha Lane Collins Leadership Awards, and that went to a woman who was, usually it was a woman who was at the pinnacle of her career. You know, she kind of done all that she was going to do. I mean, and she would, and that she was maybe mentoring now, and that kind of in her final phases before she retired. And that's who that went to, you know, who showed, leadership across the spectrum. Well, then we created, we felt like we needed one for community service, because we're all about that, you know, and recognizing leaders in the community. So we created the Isabel Yates Community Services Award to honor Isabel.
That's great.
You know, and she received the first award the first year, and then she came up until I think last year. She came to every single one that we gave away and got up on the stage and talked, and she's just so beautiful and sweet and wonderful person, and we've given that award to women who are leaders in the community, usually in doing nonprofit work, either as executive directors or board chairs, and just people that basically have held a lot of leadership roles in nonprofit work. Then the year before I left, we established the Janet Holloway Pathlighter Award. And that award goes to a woman who is up and coming in business. She has established herself, and she is breaking barriers, starting to mentor young women, and also involved in the community and doing that type of work too. So we have 3 awards, and I'm very, very proud of that, because that way we can honor women all across the spectrum, kind of as they're reaching their retirement years, the women who do so much work in the nonprofit arena, and then women who are up and coming, to show them that they're lighting the path for other women.
Absolutely. So I'm going to pitch it to you for the last word to young. This is perfect timing.
Okay.
For the last word to young girls or young women that are looking at you and maybe aspire to do some of the things that you've done. What kind of advice would you give them?
Okay. Well, to begin with, don't be too hard on yourself. I have a sense of humor, and I've always been able to maintain my sense of humor through a lot of dark days. And I think if you can have a sense of humor about yourself and not take yourself so seriously all the time, I think that'll go a long way. I think it makes people warm up to you easy, and the fact that you can be easygoing. And I think that you won't burn out as fast that way. I think that there's a lot of burnout when you just push yourself so hard. So don't feel bad about laying back and, taking it easy, and, and just and laughing about something, and just don't take yourself so seriously. That's one thing. Another thing is, you don't have to know what you're going to do when you're 15 years old. You don't have to know what you're going to do. I didn't know what I really wanted to do when I was 40. It was a long path for me to really find what I loved, and I finally got to put my 2 loves together, and that was with Women Leading Kentucky, was just, building up women and encouraging people, and bringing women together in an inclusive environment. And that was, building respect amongst, we don't beat each other down as women. And so that was and so I got to do that. I didn't really even know, to be honest, what that was. I didn't know what that was until I found Women Leading Kentucky, and I was like, oh yeah, this is what I want to do. And then of course my second love was teaching, and I was asked to be an adjunct professor in the history department at EKU, and I just love that. Again, it's education, it's learning, it's helping people achieve their dreams, and that's what is don't sweat it. If you're 21 and it's like I just haven't found my thing yet, just keep exploring everything.
Carol, thank you so much.
Oh, well,
you're so wonderful.
You. Well, so are you. My gosh, yes, you're lovely.
Thank you.
Yes.
You guys continue to watch as we celebrate other phenomenal women just like Carol, who are making changes in the community and who have made changes in our community. Continue to watch Unapologetically Woman, and I'll see you soon.